the hope that I cling to. You mean more than this world to me. I wouldn't trade you for silver or gold. I wouldn't trade you for riches untold. You are my everything. You are the love of my life. You are the hope that I cling to. You mean more than this world to me. I wouldn't trade you for silver or gold. I wouldn't trade you for riches untold. You are my everything. I wouldn't take one step without you. I could never go on. I wouldn't live one day without you. I don't have the strength to make it on my own. You are the love of my life, Jesus. You are the hope that I cling to. You mean more than this world to me. I wouldn't trade you for silver or gold. I wouldn't trade you for riches untold. You are my everything. Until the world stops turning, until the stars fade from the sky, until the sun stops striving, I need you in my life, and here's the reason why. You are the love of my life. You are the hope that I cling to. You mean more than this world to me. I wouldn't trade you for silver or gold. I wouldn't trade you for riches untold. You are my everything. Jesus, you are my everything.
And good morning to you. Here we are for another Living Hope Today study. I want to welcome you. Thank you for participating in this study with me today. Today we find ourselves in chapter 13 of the book of 2 Samuel. Now you remember, I hope, that David has committed this sin against God. He has slept with Bathsheba. He tried to create a deception by bringing Bathsheba's husband home from the war so that he might sleep with her and David might be able to claim that the baby wasn't his. That didn't work, so he had Bathsheba's husband, his name was Uriah, murdered at the front of the battle lines. Okay, so we've got He's basically raped Bathsheba, taken her against her will. He's then deceived, or tried to deceive, and then he's murdered. Well, chapter 12 contains the confrontation that God sends through the prophet Nathan. And you remember, as we begin today, I want to start here. You remember what God said to David in that confrontation. He said, "Now therefore, the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own." The threat then, the consequence, I guess it's not a threat because it's really going to happen. It's a consequence, and God says, look, I'm going to continue to have victories in battles. In fact, at the end of chapter 12, we see another victory. But in your household, things are going to be terrible. The sword is never going to leave. And now we see in chapter 13 exactly what God's talking about. In the course of time, all right? Everything's settled down. God's told me I'm forgiven. Life seems like it's going on. God said the sword wouldn't leave my house, but I haven't seen anything bad happening. Everything seems to be cruising along. Great. Oh, wait. In the course of time, Amnon, son of David, notice this is coming from his household, fell in love with Tamar, the beautiful sister of Absalom, son of David. All right, so now this is a whole family. We got two sons. We got Tamar, the sister of one of the sons, all from David's household. Okay, that's the figure in play. Amnon, what happens to him? He becomes frustrated to the point of illness on account of his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin and it seemed impossible for him to do anything to her. Oh, wow. What does that mean? Does he want to beat her up? Does he want to rob her? No, I think it means he wants to sleep with her. Now, Amnon had a friend named Jonadab, son of Shimeah, David's brother. Jonadab was a very shrewd man. He asked Ammon, "Why do you, the king's son, look so haggard morning after morning? Won't you tell me?" Amnon said to him, "I'm in love with Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister." "That's the problem. Go to bed and pretend to be ill," Jonadab said. "When your father comes to see you, say to him, 'I would like my sister Tamar to come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in my sight so I may watch her and then eat it from her hand.'" "Oh, so I'm sick, Dad, and you need to send Tamar in here to help me." So Ammon lay down and pretended to be ill. And when the king came to see him, Amnon said to him, "I would like my sister Tamar to come and make some special bread in my sight so I may eat it from her hand." What does David do? Again, what do we see here? No discernment, no suspicion, and why should he? But nonetheless, David's intimately involved with something that's about to happen in his family. David sent word to Tamar at the palace, "Go to the house of your brother Amnon, prepare some food for him." All right, so Tamar went to the house of her brother Amnon, who was lying down. She took some dough, kneaded it, made the bread in his sight, and baked it. Then she took the pan and served him the bread. But he refused to eat. "Send everyone out of here," Amnon said. So everyone left. The plot thickens. Now it's Amnon and Tamar in the bedroom. Then Amnon said to Tamar, "Bring the food here into my bedroom so I may eat from your hand." And Tamar took the bread she had prepared and brought it to her brother Amnon in his bedroom. But when she took it to him to eat, he grabbed her. And he said, "Come to bed with me, my sister." Now I want you to think about this. What's the original sin David commits that starts that whole sequence of events where he sleeps with Bathsheba? That's the first thing he does. What would you call that? Well, it's adultery if Bathsheba wants to do it with him, but it doesn't say anything about her intention, so we must assume that he just took her. Like kings do, right? Because I could. All right? Now watch what happens in his family. In God's series of consequences, the first thing that happens is another sexual sin. Right? Come to bed with me, my sister. That's where Amnon is saying, that's what he's saying to her. Don't, my brother, she said to him, don't force me. Such a thing should not be done in Israel. Don't do this wicked thing. What about me? Where could I get rid of my disgrace? And what about you? You would be like one of the wicked fools in Israel. Please speak to the king. He will not keep me from being married to you. Hey, if you want to do this, if you want to sleep with me, at least consider going through the right channels. You can probably get there if you really want to. Of course, that wouldn't be sinful. That wouldn't be an offense to David. But he refused to listen to her. And since he was stronger than her, what does he do? He rapes her. Then Amnon, isn't this interesting? Then Amnon hated her. All right, so now he gets what he thinks he wants, and once he has it, now he turns his supposed infatuation and maybe even love turns into absolute hatred. He hated her with an intense hatred. In fact, he hated her more than he had loved her. Amnon said to her, get up and get out. So now the rejection is here. We've had the rape, now we have the rejection. No, she said to him, sending me away would be a greater wrong than what you've already done to me. But he refused to listen to her. He called his personal servant and said, get this woman out of here and bolt the door after her. So his servant put her out and bolted the door after her. She was wearing a richly ornamented robe, for this was the kind of garment the virgin daughters of the king wore. Tamar put ashes on her head. She tore the ornamented robe she was wearing. She put her hand on her head and she went away, weeping aloud as she went. You know, in the culture back then, to not be a virgin would basically disqualify you from being married. It didn't really matter how you got to that place, but Tamar is now looking at her life from here on. She's going to basically experience rejection and experience loneliness. No kids, no husband, no family. This is a terrible sin against her. Right in the house of David. God brings it right to David. Oh, you want to go sleep with some other woman? Let me bring this right to your house. Let me help you understand. But that's not all. Her brother Absalom said to her, has that Amnon, your brother, been with you? Be quiet now, my sister. He is your brother. Don't take this thing to heart. And Tamar lived in her brother Absalom's house, a desolate woman. Okay. Well, finally, David enters the scene again in 21. When the king heard all this, he was furious. Okay, great. The king's upset. What does the king do? What does the king do? He's the king. His son is guilty of raping Tamar. What does the king do? Well, the passage should tell us, shouldn't it? The passage just moves past that. I guess he didn't do anything. That'd be a good guess. Absalom never said a word to Amnon, either good or bad. He hated Amnon because he had disgraced his sister Tamar. Okay, so now we find out that Absalom is looking nice on the outside, but inside he's fuming mad. 2 years later, again, no mention of David intervening on Tamar's behalf or having any kind of family discipline, any kind of event that would take Amnon and shame him or discipline him. No. 2 years go by. When Absalom's sheep shearers were at Baal Hazor near the border of Ephraim, he invited all the king's sons to come there. 2 years, 730 days. Absalom's been fuming on the inside. Absalom went to the king and said, your servant has had shearers come. Will the king and his officials please join me? Now the request is, King, I'd like you to come too. And no, my son, the king replied, all of us should not go. We would only be a burden to you. Although Absalom urged him, he still refused to go, but he gave him his blessing. Again, the king is not interacting with his sons. Then Absalom said, well, if not, please let my brother Amnon come with us. Okay, well, you don't really see intent in that, but there is intent in that. The king asked him, why should he go with you? But Absalom urged him, so he sent with him Amnon and the rest of the king's sons. Okay, here we go. Absalom ordered his men, listen, when Amnon is in high spirits from drinking wine, and I say to you, strike Amnon down and then kill him, don't be afraid. Have not I given you this order? Be strong and brave. So Absalom issues the order to kill Amnon. So Absalom's men did to Amnon what Absalom had ordered. Then all the king's sons got up, mounted their mules, and fled. All right, now think about this, church. David's first sin, sexual sin with Bathsheba. Chapter 13, the first sin, Tamar gets raped by David's son, sexual sin. What's another sin David commits? Murder. He has Uriah executed on the front line, basically by turning him over to the enemy as the rest of the troops withdraw during the battle. Well, event number 2 in chapter 13, murder. God is issuing consequences that flow right from the activity that David has committed before him. So, okay, everybody's running. Amnon is dead. While they were on their way, the report came to David, Absalom has struck down all the king's sons. Not one of them is left. Now, that's just absolutely false. That's not true, but notice how much anxiety would that cause for you if Absalom had killed all your sons, right? So David gets to live in this highly charged emotional state, thinking that what he's been told is true. The king stood up, tore his clothes, lay down on the ground, and all his servants stood by with their clothes torn. This was a symbolic way to express grief. But Jonadab, son of Shimeah, that's the guy that gave Amnon the plan, David's brother, said, my lord, should not think that they killed all the princes. Only Amnon is dead. This has been Absalom's expressed intention ever since the day Amnon raped his sister Tamar. In other words, I killed the one that got my sister, and the one to announce it to David is the same guy that gave Amnon the plan to do it. My lord the king should not be concerned about the report that all the king's sons are dead. Only Amnon is dead. Meanwhile, Absalom had fled. Now the man standing watch looked up and saw many people on the road west of him coming down the side of the hill. The watchman went and told the king, I see men in the direction of Horonaim on the side of the hill. Jonadab said to the king, see, the king's sons are here. It has happened just as your servant said. And as he finished speaking, the king's sons came in wailing loudly. The king too and all his servants wept very bitterly. Absalom fled and went to Talmai, son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur. But King David mourned for his son every day. King David gets to experience the grief of the murder of his son. And guess what? God is allowing this circumstance into David's life so David can understand the penalty of sin is so harsh and the sin itself is such a betrayal. It's a suffering that didn't have to happen. But because David decided to go off on his own, he set himself up for this consequence. David's crying for his son every day. After Absalom fled and went to Geshur, he stayed there 3 years. That's a long time. And the spirit of the king longed to go to Absalom, for he was consoled concerning Amnon's death. So now we see a split, not just in the household. Okay, Amnon rapes Tamar, and he pays for that with his life after 2 years when Absalom gets a hold of him. But now we see a split between Absalom and David. Why? Because Absalom has fled, knowing that he is guilty of murdering his brother. What a mess the evil of sin leads us into. We see it played out in David's life. We should learn from it. We need to serve him well, church. We need to stay connected to the vine. We need to produce the fruit that God wants as he uses us as his branches to produce godly fruit, to glorify his name. And we need to avoid Bathsheba. And what I mean by that is when temptation comes, we need to say no thanks. Help us, God. I pray for it in Jesus' name. God bless you, church. Serve him well.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who he is? He's the image of the invisible God, and he's the brightness of his glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.